Am I clinging or am I bringing?
Oh, I like that. Am I clinging or am I bringing? I mean, that's quite interesting because quite often with my work, with people going through a breakup, what I find is they like to usually have two criteria for selecting a new partner after a heartbreak. One is they have a pulse, and then two is they show them one sign of affection, and they go into what I call limpet mode, where and it's quite a normal human reaction. So limpet yourself, suck at yourself to this new person because you're so scared of being alone again. And I guess that's the clinging, right, rather than the bringing.
Yeah, and going into it for this is what I want to get. I want companionship, I want lightness, I want whatever I want. And a better focus tends to be, well, am I bringing lightness? Am I being a good companion? Am I living up to that vision I hold of myself, the kind of person that I would want to be with?
Welcome to the Heartbreak to Happiness Show with Sarah Davison. If you're struggling with a breakup and you feel shocked, angry, betrayed, devastated, or sad and alone, then this podcast is for you. Best-selling author and award-winning host Sarah Davison shares how you too can get on with your life to heal, grow, and move from heartbreak to happiness. Here's your host, Sarah Davison.
Welcome back to the show. Now, today I am super excited because I have a love and relationship coach on for you guys, Corey Lyon Folsom. And he helps people to increase their connection and clarity. And he's got an award-winning book called Soul Statements. And it's a love coach's guide to successful communication. And it's a guide for making small shifts that produce outsized benefits in life and love. So I am super excited to welcome Corey to the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the show. I'm very excited for you to share your story, Corey, because I find it fascinating. You talk about your spiritual soul awakening that got you onto this path. So please, would you share your story with us?
Certainly. Well, I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in a small town, rural, coastal Maine in the U.S. and went to church every Sunday. I was an Eagle Scout. So it was terrific. What I didn't learn was good communication skills because it was mostly just, cheery. And so when conflict arose, I didn't have much tools other than maybe throwing a little temper tantrum or something. And so as time went on, I got through. I was a good person, but life wasn't, shall we say, awesome. And at one point I'd had some heartbreak and I was just ready for something different. And I took this workshop. I didn't know anything about it. It was a Tantra school and which focused a lot on breathing, moving energy in your own body and developing presence, just being right here, right now, feeling the texture of the moment as well as you are able. So that's really the heart of the school. And so I was in this exercise, and it was an evening, and we had 45 minutes, and I did not have a clue how we were going to get through 45 minutes, but we were eye gazing. So myself and this beautiful woman who chose me because it was Sadie Hawkins night, and so I was just thinking. I'd been in kind of hummingbird mode, getting ready, and she could tell I was thinking about this or thinking about that. Not what I was thinking, just that I was thinking. And at one point, fairly early on, she just leaned forward and took her two fingers and just tapped my sternum and said, "Be with me." And it was like, whoa. And in that moment, like her presence just gave me that model and that transmission to just really get it and to be right there. And what it felt like was that the oxygen in the room went away, and then what filled it was breathable joy. And I was so happy that I found me and I found now. And my job since then, once I found Corey, was to keep him.
I love that. I love that. So you rediscovered who you really were, I guess, in that moment. And then how did that set you on this path for becoming a love and relationship coach from there?
Well, one thing I kind of skipped was when I was 17, I went on uh, a vision quest. It was kind of a traditional Native American setup where you sat in a little 10-foot circle for 4 days and 3 nights, fasting, asking for vision, praying. And I got one thing out of that time, which was invaluable, which was I didn't know what I was going to do in my life, but I knew who and what I was going to do or be. And so I knew that whatever I did, I was going to be an honorable man. And so that was my purpose, if you will. And so then now having this other experience, I just knew I wanted to keep that feeling of just being where I was and giving my attention to whatever's happening now, and then in a few moments something else will be happening and I'll give that my attention then. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question very
Yeah,
well.
no, I mean, I think it's interesting that quite often what leads us to do what we do now as coaches is our own personal experience, our own personal journey, and several things there, your heartbreak, and then having those realization moments obviously led you to this. Then you started helping people with their relationships.
Well, yeah, and actually, so people started asking me for help with their intimate relationship first. And so I would basically, there'd be two people here, and I would sit with them and I would help them breathe, center, ground, and get to the heart of what it is they were really about. Why they even chose this person, what they're willing and desiring to give to co-create versus what I'm trying to get from the other person. And so that led to more and more people asking me for help, and I just really focused it on love and relationship communication, not strictly just intimacy. So and I have a little saying that came from that time, and I say it's a question for each of us when we go into any situation: am I clinging or am I bringing?
Oh, I like that. Am I clinging or am I bringing? I mean, that's quite interesting because quite often with my work with people going through a breakup, what I find is they like to usually have two criteria for selecting a new partner after a heartbreak. One is they have a pulse, and two is they show them one sign of affection, and they go into what I call limpet mode, where and it's quite a normal human reaction, sort of limpet yourself, sucker yourself to this new person because you're so scared of being alone again. And I guess that's the clinging, right, rather than the bringing.
Yeah, and going into it for, oh, this is what I want to get. I want companionship. I want lightness. I want whatever I want. And a better focus tends to be, well, am I bringing lightness? Am I being a good companion? Am I living up to that vision I hold of myself, the kind of person that I would want to be with?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think most of the time we're looking for to avoid the fear of never having love again, or the fear of being on our own, isolation, or I think there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. I think you can be in a relationship with someone and be very lonely, but actually being alone can actually be great time to work on yourself. But what I see with clients is they feel they're so scared of being on their own, and they feel fear of that loneliness, that's why they jump in. So yeah, it's not just about what they can get from that person, it's also the fear of the being alone or never being loved again, I guess, because love and connection is the number one human need, isn't it? And we're all looking for that.
Hmm.
I know you've done a lot of Tony Robbins work, as I have. I'm a big Tony fan. And he talks a lot about that, doesn't he? Love and connection, and we'll do anything for that. So it's quite an interesting when you
Yeah,
look at.
I'm fortunate to have been in the same room with Tony a few times, and one thing I love that he said is, we've all done it. We make our list of, this is the qualities that I want to have with the next person. They have to be kind, they have to be all these things. And he said, that's terrific. Build your list, and now you know what you need to work on.
Yeah, that's very true. So a mirror very often to ourselves, what we're looking for in others.
Right.
You've written a book called Soul Statements, and it's a love coach's guide to successful communication. Can you explain to us what a soul statement is, Corey?
Yes, I did indeed write this book, and I was having such certain things I would share with people that were having such great success. And I thought, oh, I should write about this because, I'm not going to coach everyone in the world. And at first I thought it would be a blog. And then I'm like, oh no, I'll just put all sorts of my great stuff in here. And so the book Soul Statements is really about drastically improving your communication, starting with how you talk to yourself. And so a soul statement itself it's an affirmation, but it's not an affirmation of some future state or some place you want to be or get to. It's a present time reminder of what is true and good and resourceful about yourself already. And so I actually heard Tony Robbins say one time, like these kind of things are like an emotional postcard to you. And so I'm like, oh, that's terrific. So
can you give
so
us some
when you find
examples of them? What is
yeah
the example of the
so
soul statement?
when you find yourself in a downward emotional spiral or just a spiral of downward thinking, you can say, I am enough. I got this. I have grit inside me. My body knows how to heal itself. And I have a loving heart. So those are all soul statements that you don't have to trick your brain in any way. In fact, your cells, because they're listening, should, when you really feel it, kind of vibrate a little bit with a yes, that's true. I want him to think that because, and so that's really at the heart of a soul statement is realizing you're having an unhelpful thought or attitude. Declare a soul statement silently or aloud. Feel the truth and the rightness of it. That's where the magic comes in. And then your next thought is more congruent, a better thought than you would have had otherwise.
So if someone is, say, thinking, gosh, what's wrong with me? Why have they left me? Why don't they love me anymore? Give us a couple of soul statements that would resonate, because at that point, quite often people don't think any good stuff about themselves. Maybe they've been in a toxic relationship. A lot of my followers will have been through some sort of a domestic abuse, coercive control situation. It's very hard then as survivors. We're quite often very down on ourselves. Our confidence is super low. To think of anything nice to say about ourselves is actually quite difficult in those moments.
No, 100%. And what I actually do personally is because those catastrophizing thoughts or other just unhelpful things start playing in my own head, I actually will think to myself, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm thinking that again. Or I'll say, I used to think that. And what's actually true is there's strength in my center. I can trust my deep knowing to guide me. And so it will work because it's true. Because there is, the truth for you is in your center. And the more you can discard someone else's thinking, someone else's remarks, and just center yourself to that wellspring of goodness that's deep down inside, then you'll be going more in the right direction.
Yeah, I think sometimes even if in that moment you're not 100% convinced it's true, the more that you say things, as long as you're saying it with integrity, like there is strength in me. I can find that strength in me. I am finding that strength in me. Things are moving forward. I'm feeling better each day. I'm moving forward step by step. I have good people around me. All focusing on those things, kind of, and committing, because it's almost like what you focus on, you attract more of. So if you're focusing on all the negative thoughts and all the disempowering questions and phrases, that's where your brain is going, and then you're seeing more of it. And, if you ask your brain a question, it's going to find you an answer. So if you chuck in a disempowering question like, what's wrong with me? Your brain goes, oh, goody, let's come up with a list of things. Because, you said that, and your friend at school said this once, and your teacher never said you were good at that. And so your brain will fill in the gaps, rightly or wrongly. Whereas if you can take control and shift it to, okay, well, what's good right now? Or what am I grateful for? Or, a soul statement, like finding something about you that you is good. I'm a good person on my heart and my core. Those things, and reinforcing that, focusing on that, will help you, won't it? Shift your energy forward. I think that kind of thing is really powerful. I know that self-care is something that people find is quite selfish a lot of the time, especially survivors, because we're not used to looking after ourselves. We're used to looking after everybody else. We're busy looking after the family. Maybe we're working a lot. Maybe, it's the kids or the job or just everybody else, your partner, before us. And then when it comes to looking after ourselves, how do we find time for this and sort of structure those thoughts so that we can help ourselves? Hey, it's Sarah here. Just to remind you that we have 3 online support groups where you can find your tribe and get coaching support from my elite team coaches to help you with any kind of breakup, divorce, separation, toxic relationship breakdown. Get your questions answered and get the boost you need. Also, if you'd like to join our coaching community and turn your pain into your superpower and become a breakup and divorce coach with us, then you can also find the details on my website, sarahdavidson.com. We look forward to seeing you soon. Sort of structure those thoughts so that we can help ourselves.
Well, first of all, I like the expression, you can't toss anyone a lifeline if you're not standing on the dock. And so taking care of yourself is only going to allow you to be a better support, better person for other people around you. And I call it being soulfish versus selfish. And another phrase I put in the book, which I really love, is self-care is soul care, and soul care is self-care. So, and back to Tony Robbins again, he said that our brains are not designed to make us happy. They're designed to keep us alive. And to do that, they're always looking for what's wrong, and what's wrong is always available. And then he said the best part, which is, and what's right is always available. And so that was kind of like, when I heard that, that's like the germ of soul statements right there. So yeah. And sometimes I'll even, I used to do this back when I was like on a treadmill doing a real hard workout. I would say, just so my body would know I'm not punishing it or I'm punishing myself in some way, I would silently think to myself, I'm doing this as an act of love. Even though it's hard, this is helping me. And so you just want to align, do whatever you need to do, think whatever you need to think to align with the more capable you versus the critical you. And you hear that critical you, which will always happen sooner or later, and just you have to not let it go unchallenged, that kind of unchallenged thought, and just say, you know what, I'm more capable than that, or I am enough. I like that one. Some people, like, I have all these soul statements, tailored to each thing, and I have one client, she just uses I am enough and just puts that in everywhere, and it works too.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful one, because it does work for every situation. I'm enough. And I think that's one of the things that comes up a lot for people is we're not good enough. We're not worthy enough. We're not credible enough. That whole imposter syndrome, or no one will ever love me because I'm not lovable enough. I think those things are big deal for especially when you're coming out of relationships or you're looking for a new relationship. It's hard sometimes, and I think you're talking there about self-care, but also self-love. And I think self-love is sometimes really hard to do. We look for the next partner, but if you don't love yourself, or you don't value what you bring to a relationship, that can be a real struggle, can't it? How can people get around that self-love issue?
Well, I'll tell you how I did it.
Yeah, I do.
Is, I went to this whole weekend workshop all about self-love, and their kind of theme they kept hammering over and over was loving yourself starts with loving yourself even when you don't want to. And I just, okay, that's great. And I just had trouble getting there. And then at some point I realized, oh wait, I could start with self-acceptance. Loving yourself starts with accepting yourself. That's what I came up with. And I thought, okay, I can do that. I can accept I did this thing I'm not proud of, or I said this thing I shouldn't have, or, hey, in this other time, actually that was pretty cool of me that I did that or said this. And so I can start to accept the good and the less than good, and just say, you know what? I'm not always proud of that, but I did it, and I accept. I was fearful, I was anxious, I was whatever I was, and that happened. And then the other thing I thought about was, if I accept that I am a loved child of God, well, am I going to sit here and second guess God and say, no, you're wrong? That, I'm not lovable? And I thought, well, if I accept that, then I have to be in alignment, and I have to say, well, I'm worthy of love. And so that was how I started on that journey.
Yeah. I think self-acceptance is really important, because that, whether you have faith or you're not religious, whatever your beliefs are, self-acceptance is full accountability, which you can control, and you're like, right, okay, I have to accept me for who I am. And I think that's one of the things I learned on my journey, was that I loved the Tony work when I started out. I thought, I want to be a coach and I want to be just like Tony. But if anyone's seen Tony, he's like 6'9" or even taller, I don't know. Massive American male, very different to me. So that was impossible. And then there was Paul McKenna, who's a dear friend of mine, but he was a British guy. So I thought, okay, well, that's easier, but he's super funny and I'm not a comedian. So again, I was trying to be like these other people, and to get where I thought I needed to go, because I didn't think I was good enough. And it was only when I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not so good at that part, but I am really good at doing me. And everyone is really good at doing them. Like, you have you down pat, because no one can do better at that than you. And when you realize and accept that you are good at doing you, and yeah, you're not good at everything, there's strengths and weaknesses, but accepting that, then that's when I think you can truly start to shine, truly start to heal, truly start to step into yourself and build your confidence, because you're comfortable being you. And I think you've got to acknowledge the areas that you're great at and you're good at, and focus on those, but also understand where maybe there's things you're not so good at that maybe you either want to work on, or just outsource completely to somebody else to handle those things, if you can. But I think it's all personal growth and personal development, and that is a very rewarding sort of journey to be on, isn't it? I think also you talk a lot about healing from stress and anxiety, and that self-acceptance can help with that as well, can't it, Corey?
Oh, 100%. And when I was just thinking while you're speaking about another trap that couples fall into too much of the time, which is, when they argue, they're arguing for, well, this is what I meant, this is what I was thinking, and this was my intention, and I was motivated by whatever reason. Well, that's so much less important. I mean, it's practically unimportant in comparison to what it was like to be that other person when you were acting such and so. And so, yeah, you know all about your motivation and why you did or didn't do something. That's not what they need to know. It's more important for you to try to understand your impact on this other person. And so, versus saying, oh, well, I meant well, some version of that, just better to be curious and just listen to them say, well, when you missed your appointment, I got really scared. And so, and I lashed out or whatever I did, but I got scared. And so, and when somebody just tells me their feeling and skips the story about what they think I did or why they think I did it, and we're not arguing about motivations, we're just sharing this is what it was like to be me. And I can think to myself, or, not really even think it, but just know it, that, oh, I know what it's like to be scared. And I actually like this person. I care for them. I don't want them to feel that. And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden we're having a better exchange if we just focus on the feelings and then from there the needs, requests, versus the particulars of why you were a dummy dog and why you should or shouldn't have done this or that.
I think that's really good advice, especially for healthy relationships, because you should be able to express how you feel and have that match by, for someone who has empathy to go, oh, okay, well, I didn't mean to, that wasn't my intention to ever make you feel that way. And you would hope that partner would step up for you. I know a lot of my listeners, if they put their feelings out there with their ex-partners who are toxic, that would be a weapon to be used against them as well. So it's understanding the dynamic of that relationship, and obviously we're talking about healthy relationships here, and want, people that are there to support and move you forward. I think, for a lot of people listening, they'll be out of a relationship, maybe thinking about getting into another relationship. You're a love and relationship coach. What should they be doing at this stage to sort of identify moving forward? Terrified of the dating pool, probably rightfully so, Corey, with the state of the dating apps and like catfishing, and people aren't who they say they are, and half of them are married still, and it's all a bit of a nightmare for people. What's your advice on that?
My advice is to imagine the type of person that you would like to be with and have as a companion, share your time, and just kind of think of the vibe that person would have. And then also say to yourself, am I the type of person that someone of that vibration would be attracted to, who that would, that person would notice even? And so then the more you can increase your own vibe, the more you'll be naturally attracted to each other, of someone with that same vibe. So if you're still in the same kind of energetic level as the last, or last three relationships, you're going to attract a similar someone of that level. And so the more you can work on you, and a lot of that's going to be not abandoning yourself, meaning not abandoning your values, not abandoning your value, and saying, you know what, I'm better than that. I deserve better than that. I'm going to say no to things I used to let slide before. And the more you stand up for you, and the higher quality person that will be attracted to you. And there's a section in my book called Spirit Vows. I think I write, having personal spirit vows helps one remain connected to what's most important. Honoring spirit vows leads to becoming a more integrated and potent human being. This isn't a license to share one's innermost thoughts to any persons who will listen. I think of honoring a spirit vow during a moment of choice as breaking deep. Folding or ignoring one's values in the moment could be called breaking small. Just feel who you are, quietly repeat a spirit vow, and offer grounded, secure presence. So it's an ironclad agreement you make with your inner self. And so I vow to hold my heart as sacred and worthy of protection. I vow to never turn away from what I value most dearly. I vow to speak up for my needs even when I'm uncomfortable doing so. And I take you to be my body in this life and to treat you with care and respect. So there's more of it. That's an example.
I love that, because I think it's a really interesting way of thinking about it. You've got a lovely energy about you, a very gentle human. And I think, looking at how we take our control back is a lot of the work that I talk about. Is, how do we, instead of giving our power away all the time, we've got to start taking our power back, which is when things start to shift, and actually going inside and coming up with a spirit vow, which is something that you holding yourself to a higher standard, but it's attainable. It's something that's just being kind to yourself and giving yourself permission. It's not complicated, is it? It's something very simple that you can do even if you're overwhelmed.
That's right. It's almost like life semi-continuously tests us to see what we'll put up with. Oh, will you abandon yourself again in that same way? Or will you step up and say, no, that's not me anymore. I'm more, I'm more, and I expect more, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna give more, and so I might have to say no to some other things I used to,
Yeah.
just be okay with.
I think getting comfortable with saying no is something that takes a bit of practice as well, doesn't it? Especially if you're highly empathetic and you're a people pleaser. Sometimes it feels like uncomfortable to say no. So we end up saying yes to things and then thinking, oh, I've got to do that now, or I've committed to this, or I've said that, so now I've got to follow through. And it can be difficult to learn that, can't it?
Yes. And actually, my love coach a long time ago gave me an assignment. He said, for the next 2 weeks, don't, he was talking specifically with my girlfriend. He said, don't say yes to anything just without a modification. In other words, if she says, hey, let's go do this thing at, 1 o'clock after lunch, and I would say, that sounds good. And how about we make it at 1:15? And so I said it was basically a yes, and if it was going to be a yes at all. And so, but he just said, it's a way of practicing my power. It's a way of not saying just yes without thinking what's best for me. And so everything was if it was a yes, it was a yes, and let's modify that just a little bit. And she didn't have to even know that this was a new me I'm trying on, but it helped me think, oh, what works for me versus just saying yes. And then like, oh, well, okay, here we go.
That's a really good tool actually, because we focus on saying no, but that can be quite hard. But if you say yes and then you're modifying it, it's kind of almost a halfway step, isn't it? You're not saying no, but you're saying yes, and you're not saying but, which I think is important. You're saying and, which is less confrontational, isn't it? Is that the reason for the word and?
That's exactly the reason.
Powerful. I love that. So, I mean, these soul statements, these spirit statements, I think they're powerful. How does it help us feel more empowered with everyone in life? Because it's not just partners, is it? I suppose this is something that can work with co-workers, family, friends. How does that work?
Well, the more I'm connected to me, the more I'm doing things that feed my spirit, the more I'm just relaxed going into any interaction, because I've taken care of my needs, my need for alone time, my need for exercise, my need for sleep, my need for water, whatever it may be. And so I'm a big fan of spending at least a little time in stillness every day. And that stillness doesn't necessarily mean sitting on a meditation pillow. Whatever stills your mind. So for some people, it could be just a walk in a park. Some people, it could be journaling, or a hard workout, or a dip in the ocean. Whatever it may be to kind of connect you to you, do more of that. And so and so that time in some form of stillness allows you to remember who and what and why you are, and you can just be more self-assured in other interactions. It's easier to be curious, it's easier to listen. And another great thing is to offer acknowledgement kind of as a default practice. So when somebody says, oh, this, that, and the other thing, you could say, oh, I get that that's super fun for you, or I hear this is distressing. And you don't have to agree that they have any reason that would be fun or that would be distressing, but you've acknowledged, oh, you're feeling like that, and I'm noticing. And when people offer me acknowledgement, 50% of whatever my issue is goes away immediately. It just evaporates. Like, oh, you heard I don't have to argue for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very it's dissolving disagreements and conflict before it happens, isn't it? It's just
That's right.
finding an easy
Yeah.
path.
And that slowing down, that the soul statement is a form of self-acknowledgement. I'm acknowledging my own heart. I'm acknowledging what I'm about, what's important to me, and my inner alignment is always available. I can let the knowing of my spirit bubble up from inside me. I know that's a long one, but I like it. And so, as we spend time cultivating our own wellness, we're just better able to, handle the waves, the ups and downs of life.
Yeah, I think when you're comfortable in your own skin, it's almost getting to that point, isn't it, where you're totally accepting, you know who you are, you're accepting of the good and the bad and the ugly, and it's okay, and it's focused on being kind to yourself. I think a lot of us don't do enough of being kind to ourselves. I think it's super important, and it's great that the way you're describing things really brings it to life and makes it sensitive, and I like it. I like the words you use, like soul and spirit. I think they're not used enough, actually. You did also use another word earlier. You talked about your tantra training. How does that come into what you're doing? Is your work influenced in any way by that still now?
Oh, it absolutely is. And as I mentioned briefly before, to me, Tantra is essentially an attitude and a practice of paying attention to the moment. So the more deeply one inhabits the moment, the more you're being tantric. And so to inhabit the moment, the how we get there is to just slow down. And so we slow down. We're not thinking about the future or the past or some other thing. We're just listening. We're attentive, and we we've developed a sense for what feels right, what feels not right in our bodies, and so we're present for what we're feeling, and also there's an attitude in Tantra that the same creator that made your mind made your body, and including the parts we usually don't talk about. And so we learn to hold our physicality, what the things we're able to do, including sexual union. It's all like a holy sacrament of sorts. And so one of the soul statements I have related to Tantra is, I have a beloved that dwells within. And so when we're slowing down, when we're being quiet, when we're in stillness, we're really, one of the hopes is that we're connecting to this beloved that dwells within, and going, oh, I remember you, friend. You're that, young lad who's been there all along. Oh, this is the heart that's been beating for me since before I was born. How wonderful is that? And so, when we connect more to our center, then we're more self-informed. And so, how wonderful it is to be really self-informed as we love our partner, as we're listening, as we're curious, as we're present for them. And so, another soul statement I really like related to Tantra is, I have a sacred contract to love and to loving.
I love that. It's very calming listening to you, Corey. You've got a very calming way. I'm like go, go, go a million miles an hour, but this last 30 minutes has been very relaxing, and just that spiritual energy that you have, I think is super important. I think, very often we're, trying to force change or trying to step up, and what you're talking about there is really sort of going deep and really exploring that sort of spiritual avenue, which I think is really important and does add that much needed calm and peace after the trauma of a separation, a breakup, as you're frightened maybe about the future and things seem a little overwhelming. Just taking that time to go inside and be kind to yourself and center is super important. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I have one last question for you, which I ask all the guests on my podcast. Podcast is called Heartbreak to Happiness. So what is happiness for you, Corey?
Happiness to me is being connected to who I am, to my purpose, when I feel like I am being utilized for the gifts and skills that I can bring, then and I feel like that's making a positive contribution to the people around me, the people I care about, then that's happiness for me.
I love that. What a lovely answer. Where can people find you, Corey, if they want to work with you or get your book? Where can they find you?
Sure. Well, I'm easy to find on Instagram, Corey Lyon Folsom, all one word, and Corey F on Facebook. My website, corerelationship.com, has coaching info, a couple dozen articles I've written. There's a page to check out the book, purchase it via bookshop.org or Amazon, and you can always ask your local bookstore to order it.
Absolutely. Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, Corey, and sharing your spiritual wisdom. I found it very enjoyable, and thank you for being such a fabulous guest.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
That's it for today's episode. Do like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
That's it for today's episode of Heartbreak to Happiness. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to win a free ticket to Sarah's virtual Heartbreak to Happiness retreat. This is a transformative combination of live webinars with Sarah herself, coupled with her empowering online video program designed to help you cope better with your breakup and start feeling happy again. Thank you, and join us again on the next episode for another dose of Heartbreak to Happiness.